and welcome to the Cricket Nerds podcast. I am James. I'm joined with Zach. How are you doing, Zach?
I'm all right, thanks. Other than the quick wasp sting that I received.
So for our viewers, about 2 minutes before we were going to start filming this, Zach got stung on the neck by a wasp. Bear in mind, it was about 9:30 when this happened, so it was a weird start, but it was a funny one.
Yeah.
And then I'm also joined by Benji. How you doing, Benj?
I'm good. I've just realised that I muted my mic on Zoom, not OBS, just then when I took a sip. So apologies to everyone who just heard a massive noise as I rubbed my hand against my microphone. We moved.
Brilliant.
We moved.
This is a great start.
Not a lot can ruin my mood after
Intros are definitely our
Chennai
strength.
today. I'm pretty happy about that. Anyway, I'm not going to steal your thunder, James. What are we going to talk about today?
Chennai is going to be one of them. We're going to talk about all the different teams, just do a quick rundown of all the 8 teams, and basically say what we've learned in the last 6 days since we last posted. So, yeah, first one. Benj, do you
Look
want
at
to
that! Chennai! So, yeah, after a bit of a disappointing first game, I have to say, as a CSK fan, I'm quite happy about how things have been going. The result against Punjab it blew my mind, to be honest. I think that game was won in its entirety by Deepak Chahar. That like his bowling figures, 4 wickets for 13 runs. It was just a phenomenal effort from Deepak. Didn't fire
I'd have
as
to
much.
give a
Go on.
I was going to say, I have to give a bit of credit to Jadeja for his fielding.
Well,
He was everywhere.
he
The
did
man
the
is a
same thing
machine.
tonight as well, didn't he? Like against Rajasthan. Yeah, I was a bit nervous too, chasing 188. Defending 188. But again, it seemed to look okay in the field, and you know, we benefited a little bit from a collapse from Rajasthan today. Who you know have been struggling. I think they showed a bit of a spark against Delhi last week. But again, we'll come on to them later. But yeah, I've been pleasantly surprised by CSK. Standout performances for me have been like Moeen, has been an absolute beast, and Jadeja has just shown his value, and where when we made our predictions we thought that Chennai would fall down quite a lot in terms of the fielding aspect. I think having Jadeja and also Faf du Plessis and Dwayne Bravo in the side has really improved that. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in the next few games. I'll be interested to see if Dhoni decides to shake it up a bit and try out Berendorf and Ngidi, and how that looks. Maybe injecting it a little bit of extra pace. Maybe one of the Indian seamers has to give way. Again, I was theorising earlier what an 11 could look like. But it was a toughie. But no, yeah, I'm happy. I think CSK are quite in a good place, and I'm hoping that they can just carry on this momentum.
Yeah, they're
what do you
looking
think?
really strong. I think Moeen Ali poses a bit of another question for the England selectors, because we've got yet another person that looks brilliant at number 3. So yeah, he just goes out and he seems to know exactly what he's doing, and he looks really fluid.
Chennai definitely proven themselves to be the dark horse in the competition. They just they're surprising. Like last year, there wasn't really much about them, but I think Moeen kind of adds that, doesn't he? He can smack sixes and take wickets, and not go for many runs. Like he's quite an economical bowler. So he's performing the role that they didn't have last year, that exciting batsman at the top of the order and that control through the middle overs with a spinner.
He's a bit of a presence, isn't he? The beard that's feared.
The beard that's feared,
That is
indeed, yeah.
weird. I have to say the team is looking almost a bit rejuvenated compared to last year. Um, like Reiner's back in the side. You know, Shane Watson's retired, which I think that has been a blessing in disguise for Chennai because it sort of freed up a bit of the top order. It's allowed an extra bit of budget to buy a player like Moeen. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm hoping that Chennai can keep up the same momentum in the next couple of games.
Right.
But you know, again, we're not that far into the competition, so things can always go wrong.
So next up, Delhi Capitals. Zach, what do you think of Delhi?
I think they are doing pretty good. They've got a strong team and they're proving themselves. They've got the top order strikers. Darwan is in the form of his life at the moment. Like some of his shots are incredible. And I think also at the start in the first game and also the second game when they lost to Rajasthan, I was thinking they don't really have that lower order finisher. But Stoinis is kind of fulfilling that role. He had that last season and I think he took a while to get going. But then in the last game, he showed why they have him in the team. Because they've got the top order players. They've got Prithvi Shaw, they've got Darwan, they've got Rishabh Pant, but they need that lower player, that lower order player to finish the games off. And Stoinis has that. And their bowling, it's just incredible. Like Rabada, Wokes, their spinners, yeah, they've got everything covered in that aspect.
I've got to say, I was right about my assessment of Steve Smith at DC. He's not good in T20. I'm going to put it out there.
He's had
You know,
one game. Come on.
I don't rate him. And I'm going to stay not rating him until he proves me wrong.
I can't wait for Steve Smith to just hit a century next game, and just to see your face when that happens.
We'll wait and see.
I doubt that will happen.
I think I agree with all of the comments that you made. If someone misses, someone else will pick up the slack with Delhi. So, for example, in the second game, Prithvi Shaw and Shekhar Dhawan, went out very cheaply quite early on, but Pant really held that innings together, and there was nice little cameos from Tom Curran and Chris Wokes too. And I think they got quite unlucky in the Rajasthan game when it was the David Miller and Chris Morris show that really chased those runs down. I think Delhi. I agree with what you've said. They're definitely in form, and it's just a weird IPL this year that no match is really going the way that we expect it. Like Rajasthan can beat a team like Delhi who are in really good form, and then lose to CSK who we thought wouldn't really have a look in. So yeah, it's just been really interesting how the season has been going really.
Speaking of a weird team, what do we think of Kolkata Knight Riders?
A weird team. They are a weird team.
They're the ones we predicted correctly, aren't they?
Yeah, they're just bizarre. I cannot place what they're going to do because on the one hand, like you've got some real standout players, Nitish Rana, Varun Chakravarti, who are really staying up, Raul Tripathi, and then they just seem to collapse really easily. It's really quite bizarre.
Well, I think with like I was saying about Delhi, how they've got Stoinis at the back end finishing the innings, they have a number of players who could do that. Dinesh Karthik's coming in at 6. We've got Shakib Al Hassan. We've got Andre Russell. Like their middle to lower order is where the run should be coming, but they're not. It's coming from the top order. It's coming from Shubman Gill and Nitish Rana. That doesn't really make that much sense because if you think, once we get out these 3 young Indian batsmen who are playing well, then we've got to bowl at Morgan, then we've got to bowl at Russell, then we've got to bowl at Shakib, and they should be the team that's feared with that middle order, but they're not performing, are they?
Yeah, it's really bizarre.
I mean, in the first couple of games, their runs have really pretty much come from Nitesh Rana. Like he's been the one who's been really scoring for them in the first 2, and against RCB in match 10, Rana went early, and there wasn't really anyone that scored anything of note. I think Andre Russell had a bit of a cameo at the end, Owen Morgan has really been disappointing me this year. Like, he's just not looked comfortable when batting. It worries me a little bit with the World T20 coming up that Morgan, who's going to be the England captain, is looking so out of form.
Yeah, he really isn't looking good. At this point, if he stays like this, he's got to be dropped for the World Cup. I'm going to say it.
I just
You
can't see that
can't
ever
have
happening.
you can't have a good captain but a bad player, and that's what we've got in Morgan at the moment. I really want him to come back into form, but yeah, that's
He's said it
just a
before
little.
though. It's happened in the past where he was really out of form, and he said, "If the best thing for the team is for me to stand down, then I will." And then just after he said that, he found form. And it's a long competition. He's going to be captain every game for Kolkata Knight Riders. All it takes is 150 off 20 balls from Morgan, and he's back into form.
I mean,
So
we need to think back to some of the knocks that he played in the World Cup in 2019. Like, he played 2 or 3 match-winning innings, and again in the series that have been since then, Morgan has performed. Not every time, but I think that's the thing with the England setup that if one person is not quite performing, someone else picks up the slack. Or I think in the case with Calcutta this year, they've not really found that, have they? And they've just been they've been unfortunate. I mean, trying to chase down 205 in Chennai, I mean, that's a big task. Glenn Maxwell and AB de Villiers are looking like they are a different breed of human at the minute. We'll come on to them when we talk about RCB. I'm sure Zach's got plenty to say about them.
Yeah. Let's bide our time before we get to that smug little man in the in the corner. So Mumbai Indians, they are not doing what we expected. I expected them to absolutely stomp on everyone, and it's pretty much been Rahul Chahar who has kept them in games, really.
Well, so they're 2 from 3. Only loss was that first game, first game last ball thriller against RCB. I think Mumbai haven't been looking terrible. They've sort of found their feet now on that Chennai track. I think Quinton de Kock actually looked really good against Sunrisers in match 9. Sharma is playing as we expect. He's getting runs every game, and Trent Bolt is tearing up the field. Trent Bolt is taking lots and lots of wickets, and I'm hoping that he carries on, and my purple cap prediction comes true with that. Yeah, but the dominant force that we thought they would be, we've not seen that, have we? Why do you think that is then?
I think it's same with Kolkata. Is that middle order, like Karan Pollard, Hardik Pandya, Krunal Pandya. They in the past, Hardik Pandya, like in a row, he might score like 3 really quick 50s, or maybe 30 off 8 balls. He's not done that this season. Well, he might have done, but he hasn't done it consistently. Karan Pollard actually hasn't been in too good form, but in that last game, he did show some of the Karan Pollard of old. He was on, says here, 35 of 22 with 3 sixes, which is the sort of innings they expect from him.
Yeah.
That finishing innings, which he provided for them. But yeah, like Suryakumar Yadav and Ishan Kishan, they're both young Indian talents. They're both very exciting players. And it will be a case of they're not going to fire every game because they're inexperienced. They've not got that experience like someone like AB de Villiers, for example, who will consistently perform for Royal Challengers. They don't necessarily have that.
Well, what did you think about Marco Jansen being left out in favour of Adam Milne? Because Jansen, especially with the ball, was looking, really good in the first couple of matches.
Yeah, well,
James,
Adam Milne's economy rate 33, well, 32 runs, 11 and over. It's not great, is it?
Yeah, I think potentially Milne offers a bit more batting stability. Not that Mumbai should need it, but I think Milne is a better batsman. I've got to say Janssen has looked unconvincing with the bat.
Mm.
Kind of looks like a stick insect with a toothpick. But it's if the guy's performing better, then you put Janssen in, and he's a young talent. He's going to take a little bit of while to get used to Indian conditions. So yeah, I think you can't really go wrong with Milne or Janssen. You just got to let them both have a bit of time to get used to the conditions. So on to a tragic tale of sorrow, which is Punjab Kings. We started off with an absolute thriller against Rajasthan, and since we had an abysmal collapse against Chennai, and then a disappointing end against Delhi. So yeah, we're where to start. I'm sad. I want them to do better, but yeah, we don't seem to be all firing at the right time. Nick Pooran is completely out of form, and that is heartbreaking because he's one of the best players in the world, and you want to see him do well, regardless of what team you're on. You want to see him because he's a very exciting player. Yeah, what do you guys think?
I think, especially against in the Chennai match, um, I mean, Punjab lost that game to Deepak Chahar, some very good bowling and some unfortunate variation off the surface. Not to take anything away from Jahar's spell, taking 4 wickets and knocking over Agarwal, Gale, Huda, and Puran. That's quite a list of names
Yeah.
to take. I think that Punjab should start thinking about mixing up their lineup a little bit. So, still having Darren Malan, who's not played a game yet, and having such a talent just sort of just sitting there by the sidelines, bringing out water bottles, especially when Chris Gale isn't doing what Chris Gale does best. It probably is time for them to make a couple of changes. Zach, what do you think?
I just feel like their overseas players, like their overseas batsmen in Gale and Poran, aren't consistent enough. Because what they're really relying on is Rahul to bat the innings and everyone else to just tonk it. And that's why you will see big scores from Punjab, but why you also saw that score against Chennai, because Chahar bowling sensible bowling, if you try and hit him, you're going to get out. It's going to happen. Gale isn't as he was when he was playing at RCB like 4 or 5 years ago. He's not the same, and they need that stability and consistency in their bowling. I don't see them ever defending a total. I want to be proven wrong, but I don't see Riley Meredith bowling 2 overs at the death and going for less than 20 runs. Just don't see it happening.
I think Riley Meredith. It's been quite interesting watching him over the 3 games because in the first game he was terrible. His line was Australian, and his length was going to Australia. But he's learning. You can see him getting better, and there were glimpses of him doing okay. And then as soon as he gets hit for one or one glances away for 4, he then reverts back to his I'm going to bowl a 150-mile-an-hour bouncer that's literally just going to get hit for another 4 or send it 5 wides. It was uninspiring to say the least. Whenever Riley Meredith comes in to bowl, I never think, "Oh, we're going to put the stumps in danger here." I just don't. I think we've got a chance of a top edge at best. Whereas with Jai Richardson, I kind of think, he could absolutely, bowl a perfect Yorker and take out off stump. So I think it's time for Riley Meredith to be put on the bench, and potentially, you could bring in even Isham Perel. Have an Indian in there who's used to Indian services. I'm going to keep on harping on about Isham Perel because I really want to see him. I think it's a shame to have a talent like that on the bench when the Riley Meredith experiment is failing as so far.
I feel like the logical move is to bring in Chris Jordan, because Chris Jordan gives a little bit more batting stability where they've been losing a bit of that depth. If there is a bit of a collapse, they relied quite heavily on Shahrukh Khan against Chennai. So I'd have thought Chris Jordan to come in for one of Riley Meredith or Jai Richardson, and see how Chris Jordan does, because he also brings that extra element of death bowling too, being one of the best bowlers in the death. Again, he's come off a little bit of poor form in the England-India series, but it'll be interesting to see what they can do with that team.
All right then, Rajasthan Royals. What do we think about them? Go on, Zach.
Morris delivered, didn't he? Big time. They were down and out, and Morris is like, I've been paid the big bucks. I'm going to make the most of it. Show up for once. I think they're an interesting team because they rely very heavily on their overseas players. And right now, two of their overseas players in Archer and Stokes, who arguably their two best overseas players, are out of action. But I think they will take a lot of confidence seeing the knock that David Miller played. He was really impressive just coming in and playing like that. And David Miller's in form. I think I'm pretty sure he did well in the South Africa 2020 challenge that they had. So he's coming in with some form. He's playing well. So I think that's a big boost for them. I'll keep on saying it with Rajasthan. Their Indian talent, they need to fire for them to do well. They need to have that one Indian player who just stands up and says, right, I'm going to have a breakthrough season here. And so far, it's not really happened.
I've been really impressed by the Fizz.
Mustafa Fizzer.
He's such an exciting bowler with all his wrist variations and all of that stuff. It's been quite fun to watch him, and I can't agree more. I think David Miller was one of my standout points in our predictions, even though I incorrectly left a deliberate mistake in calling him an all-rounder when he doesn't bowl. But I think he's been looking good. I think there's a bit of debate at the minute about where David Miller goes in the order, whether he should be at 5 or he should actually be bumped up to 4 so that they can make the most of him. I think he probably would be a bit better for Rajasthan if he was up at number 4. Like, if you can imagine him coming in above Shivam Dubey, who wasn't really firing off today. I mean, I know David Miller caught a bit of a unlucky good ball off Moeen, who was having an absolute blinder of a game. But if he were to be bumped up the order that little bit, give him a little bit more overs, we can see. Rajasthan also with their injuries, so I'm not sure what the rules are with the IPL. I admit I've not checked it yet, but Ben Stokes has flown back to England to have an operation. So Zach, maybe you know this. Do they get to replace him with another overseas player, or is it too late now?
Yes, they can. They can replace him with another overseas player. So, for instance, it was either last year or the year before. Royal Challengers had a fast bowler injured, and they brought in Dale Steyn. I don't know what the rules would be with COVID, but if it was normal rules, then they could. So you might see Alex Hales joining the Rajasthan contingent or
Yeah.
something along
That
those
would be
lines.
huge for
So
them.
for
That would be
Rajasthan, then yeah.
huge.
So on that point, who do we think then would be a Ben Stokes replacement? Let's table Hales for a second because I think all three of us would like to see Hales,
Yeah.
but who could sort of fill that role at the top of the order?
Well, it depends how you look at Stokes. Do Rajasthan think we need an overseas fast bowler who can bowl at the death? And I think we've seen with Punjab, sorry, James, Australian fast bowlers who are new to Indian conditions, it might not work out. So they could think of a fast bowler, or they could think, do we want Ben Stokes, the batsman? Is that what we need in our team? Um, that's the decision, isn't it? There aren't that many all-rounders going
Yeah.
around who can match Ben Stokes' quality.
Thing is, they weren't really using as Ben Stokes as Ben Stokes the bowler. They were more relying on Chris Morris. There's a bit of debate about is Chris Morris being utilised properly. He wasn't bowled out in the game against Delhi, but he seems to be. They seem to be relying on Chris Morris more and more now. Like today, he bowled all four of his overs against Chennai, and also came out and delivered that match-winning knock against Delhi as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm a bit I'm a bit disappointed so far that we've not seen either Liam Livingstone or even Kuldeep Yadav. Kuldeep Yadav. I think Kuldeep Yadav is again quite a strong player, and he's another one of those bits of Indian talent who really could come in and do a bit of damage with his bowling.
So, Zach, it's time for you to be smug. Let's break down RCB's 3 out of 3 wins. They've been amazing. And Glenn Maxwell, it's so annoying. For 5 long years, he hasn't scored a 50. And now he's doing amazingly. He's second in the orange cap race. He's absolutely amazing. So, Zach, break it down for me. What are they doing so right?
I think they are being smart. I think that's what they're doing right, which I feel like Royal Challengers haven't been the smartest team over previous seasons. And they've got a really good culture going on. Like I'm following the YouTube channel and everyone's getting along. And yeah, I'm very positive. Everything's very positive when it comes to Royal Challengers. And to do with Maxwell, he's just, with Kohli and De Villiers alongside him, he's just got that confidence. He doesn't feel like the team depends on him, and yet because of that, the team is depending on him because he's pulling out match-winning innings. De Villiers is on another planet. I don't think anyone will ever come close to the sort of stuff he produces on a cricket pitch. But yeah, he's on another level. And if Kohli starts firing, then
It'll be
batting.
insane.
And I think De Villiers it was in the last match against Kolkata, and one of the presenters was talking to him afterwards and saying about whether he thinks that they got a par score if they were over par, and De Villiers was saying, yeah, I think the par score is about 170, just with this smug look on his face, think, yeah, we got 30 more than that. And I think the bowling, Siraj, economical, Harsha Patel, death bowling, taking lots of wickets. Chahal, if he finds form, taking wickets in the middle order. We haven't even utilised Washington Sundar that much. And I think that just shows the depth that Royal Challengers has, which we might not necessarily thought of that they did have.
Yeah, I agree. Something I actually noticed, which was something I said about Mumbai in our preview podcast, which was everyone seems to know exactly what they're doing. They seem to slot into the team perfectly. And that's what you've got in RCB now. Everyone just seems to have their place. Oh, yeah, this is where you go and you perform the way you do. And it just seems to fit so nicely. Yeah, I've been very impressed with RCB.
Yeah, even brave enough to only pick 3 overseas slots.
That's just showboating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right then.
But that just on that point, it shows the depth of their Indian talent. How they have managed to pick a side that is working that well. Carl James has been playing really well, and I've been quite disappointed with Dan Christian being left out. Cry, cry, cry. But you know, I hope. But Dan Christian was still on as a sub fielder and was still involved and took a catch. So you know, he's a great player. Don't leave
The
him
love
out.
of your life
Don't
is
leave him
still
out,
doing
Coley. Don't
something.
leave him out, Coley. Let him play, please, please.
Shall we just take a minute or two to laugh at David Warner?
Yeah.
Okay, that was a nice time. I enjoyed that. Sunrisers, they've had an absolute stinker.
Yeah, they've. It's not
Wow.
been the one for them, has it? Really? Not. I don't enjoy seeing many people down and out, unless David Warner, and in that case, it's not terrible. I mean, what we said about Sunrisers having that broad batting lineup and that fantastic bowling lineup, they've just not been up to what we thought they'd be. I think Bhuvanesh Akuma and Nathan Naranjan both haven't been performing well. I mean, Nathan Naranjan even managed to get himself dropped. So yeah, it does seem like the Sunrisers are in a bit of a pickle at the minute. I think the thing that I've noticed is as soon as their top order goes, the Warner and the Bairstow, they're in trouble. What do you guys think? Do you think they were better when Bairstow was at 4 or when Bairstow was opening?
I don't think it really matters because he's still in that top order slot, isn't he? And he's going to do well. I think I was looking at the Sunrisers team thinking, how have they lost their first 3 games? I was looking at their squad thinking they cover everything. But then the more I thought about it, the more I thought they've got the top order, they've got the opening bowlers, they've got the spinner Rashid Khan through the middle. What they're missing is the players for the last 5 overs. Who is their batsman who's going to be in the last 5 overs and win them the game or score them those extra 60 runs in the last 5 overs to get a good total? Who's the bowler who's going to bowl at the death consistently? Like Natarajan, he did that last year, didn't he? But this year, he's been left out. So who is Holder going to fill that role? And I don't think they know which overseas players to pick because they've got such good overseas players. They don't know who to pick. And I think they're missing Williamson.
Yeah,
If Williamson was in that middle order, then he might be able to take them over the line in a lot of their games.
I mean, they've used 3 overseas players in that 4th overseas player slot in each game, starting with Nabi, then Holder, then Majib in the last game, and yeah, they're very different to what we thought they'd be, and they're very different to what we've been saying about RCB and Mumbai. They don't know what their roles are. They don't know what they're doing, and yeah, I think. Well, I mean, this Bhuvanesh Akuma like we're seeing now, where was he in the England series? It's baffling. He was there going at a tiny economy rate. Now, I don't know whether that's the effect of playing it, their games in Chennai potentially. I mean, to be fair, so they've currently played 3 out of 3 games at Chennai, which historically is quite a bowl of favouring, quite a low score, but. Yeah, it's an interesting one for Sunrisers. They seem to be in quite a pickle at the minute, and I think they've got quite a bit of work to do if they want to challenge for some of those playoff spots.
We'll have to wait and see. So, just before we wrap things up, I believe we have a little thing from Statman Zach on your fantasy pick of the week. Who's it going to be?
Well, I'm going. I've pulled out all the stocks on this one because. I was looking at the games that are going on over the next round of games, and I was looking at that Punjab Kings versus Sunrisers fixture, and I was thinking a young Johnny Bairstow is in some hot form, and he's coming up against probably the weakest bowling lineup. Sorry, James, in the IPL. And I just think I just have a feeling like Johnny Bairstow's gonna score lots of runs against Punjab on Wednesday. I'm probably gonna be wrong because I'm not that great at the fantasy, but yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah.
put my
I
neck
mean,
on the
James,
line.
James,
Johnny
you're
Bairstow.
actually ahead of Zach in fantasy, in your league.
I am indeed. I am.
So, what's James's fantasy pick of the week?
Oh, it's gonna have to be. I think it'll be Chris Wokes for me. It's always gonna be Chris Wokes at this point. I think he's that dark horse. Not everyone picks him, but he's consistently amazing with the bowling, and then he's quite secure with the bat as well if he gets in. So it's Chris Wokes.
And I want to be, basic and say, look, if you want some guaranteed points, play Moeen Ali. Chennai through and through, play Moeen Ali. Or Glenn Maxwell, either
Glenn
or.
Maxwell.
They both go in the same slot, so Moeen or Glenn Maxwell, and I think you'll be okay.
Brilliant. Well, I think we'll end it there. So thank you very much for watching and listening. If you like what you saw, please subscribe and leave a like and leave us a comment as well. We like the conversation. If you want to follow us on any social medias, we are at Cricket Nerds Pod.
Yes,
I've got really good at remembering that name now. So yeah, brilliant. Thank you everybody and goodbye.